Alright, hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Slikk. I'm back again with another video, and in this one, we're going to be talking about future Marvel video games. I would like to talk about Marvel video games that I want to have come out, that I want to be playing out of this new wave, this new era of Marvel video games that is upon us in the next few years, at the very latest, if not sooner than that, starting with Spider-Man PS4. So what else would I like to see beyond Spider-Man PS4? Yesterday I talked about the possibility of DC video games being canon to one another, and future DC video games that have been leaked may be canon, or in other words, synonymous, interrelated or interconnected in the same universe, in the DC video game universe. So that may be possible with the Marvel video games that we know are coming out, but I'm not going to focus on that too much, but rather talk about other heroes that I would like to see in their own standalone video games. So I want to talk about 3 games in particular that I think would be the most intriguing to see, and also in all of these games you're gonna hear that they are commercially viable. What do I mean by that? People all the time with DC video games in particular, people always say, I would love a Nightwing game, I would love this or that game of this sidekick or minor protagonist or hero that is not really commercially viable. And the reason that you will never see a Nightwing video game is because he's not popular enough. He is not, as I said, commercially viable. In the comic book world, he is a fan favorite, right? He is a rock star among people that know about, the video games and comic books and everything like that. But if you were to ask people on the street, out of 100 people, 2 or 3 of them at the very most are going to be able to tell you that Nightwing is Dick Grayson and, he wears black and blue and, that sort of thing. Most people will not know who he is, out of just your regular Joes. Do the same experiment with 100 of the same people, ages 5 years old to 70 years old, with Batman. 100 out of 100 of them are going to know exactly who Batman is. And that, my friends, is why we have a Batman video game every other year, and we will not ever see a Nightwing video game. And that's just the honest truth of it. We have to be realistic about that. But at the same point, I will say that there is a Damian Wayne Batman video game coming out in the next few years, and Damian Wayne is far from commercially viable as well, but I think that's an exception to my rule because he is embodying the Batman sort of mythos, or the Batman suit, cape and cowl, so that's an exception there, but you get the point. All of these heroes I'm going to be mentioning to you are commercially viable, and the first one includes the Punisher. Now, the Punisher has been really big recently based off of his portrayal by Jon Bernthal in the Daredevil television show on Netflix, but the Punisher is one of my childhood favorites. Along with Spider-Man, the Punisher is who I always read as a kid, very young, when I was like 6 years old, and retrospectively, I seriously should not have been reading the Punisher when I was that young, but I love the character so much. I remember writing my own Punisher comics when I was like 8 years old, and I drew the Punisher as a stick figure guy. All the characters were stick figures, and I didn't color them or anything, but the point is, I loved the Punisher so much, and he was such an intriguing character to me, and was the first time I read a comic book where I felt that there was reverence to a character that had a broken past. And I think that the Punisher and Batman are relatable in many ways, and is why I love both of those characters quite a bit. Now, I just cannot shake the initial conception of an idea that I had for this Punisher game when I was thinking about making this video, and thinking about an open world Punisher game, and just the dark of night, and just seeing the Punisher being able to free roam and just absolutely slaughter down bad guys. Now, the problem with this game inherently, as a free roam game, which I would hope that it would be, and there actually was a Punisher game on PS2, I didn't know about it, and it probably is pretty outdated if you were to play it today, but I think a modern interpretation of the character on next gen could really do the character justice. So I think that the game would have to be open world, but the problem there is that how do you turn a Punisher game, how do you keep that from becoming GTA 6, right? And the Punisher, I feel as though that would be the inclination to go there, and the thing about the Punisher, though, is he doesn't kill civilians, he doesn't kill innocent people, and he doesn't just walk around the street and mowing people down. Now, he does carry an assault rifle around him at all times, and bazookas and rocket launchers and things like this. In the comics, from my experience reading him, he sort of teleports around. Sometimes he has vehicles, sometimes he doesn't. But can he just walk down the street with, an AR-15 on his back? Does it work that way? I don't know. I don't know how the game would logistically work. All I do know is that if they were to make an open world story for the game, which I hope that they would, you do have to make sure that the Punisher can't just mow down civilians, because that would be what everybody wants to do. And again, at that point, that is GTA 6 with the Punisher, logo on the back of your coat. That's not a Punisher game. So how do you make that happen? I don't have the answers to it. All I know is that I can see it in my head, and that game looks freaking awesome, and I want to play it. So the second character on my list is one that has been thrust into the mainstream limelight by the revival of Marvel Studios in 2008, and of course that is Iron Man, who by every means, by the way, was pretty much a B-list character before the revival of Marvel Studios in 2008 with the Iron Man 1 standalone film. Now, how would this game work with Iron Man in terms of a gameplay perspective? And one of the things that I find interesting about an Iron Man game, which has been highly requested up to this point, is that it is somewhere in the middle between a godlike superhero that can do almost anything, like Superman, for example, who is intrinsically hard to create a game for and is yet to really have a great game, because it is so hard to create a game for a character with that much ability, that has so few restrictions in their powers, that it's hard to program reasonable restrictions on the player and create a game that is challenging for the player and create reasonably challenging, enemies and that sort of thing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, which up to this point, superhero video games, good ones at least, have pretty much walked this line, and so the Punisher and Batman all fall into the other end of that spectrum, where the game is quite easy to program from a logistical standpoint, simply because of the fact that you don't have to program any of these crazy powers and once again create reasonable restrictions on those powers to create a challenging game environment. And Iron Man is somewhere in the middle, right? He is a regular guy, but he can fly around, he can shoot rockets and, machine guns and all these sort of things. And I think that game would benefit really well, not from an open world game, but rather from a more on-rails single-player game. I'm thinking like a Call of Duty story narrative, where you can actually go to the Middle East and blow people up and stuff like that, because that's what Iron Man does, He doesn't really, patrol the city and look for bad guys to put out. That's not really his gig, He's much more of a sort of international star in such a way. And once again, he's not like Batman, he's not like the Punisher or anything like that, or, and he looks around his city and looks for crime and searches it out and seeks vengeance and that sort of thing. He's not so much like that, so I don't think that the game would benefit strongly from an open world environment, and also because of the fact that you're freaking Iron Man. You can fly across the entire map in 5 seconds. It doesn't matter how big or small the map is. With that being said, I think the game, once again, would benefit very heavily from a more on-rails experience with open world environments within the campaign, and I think that maybe there could be an open world mode. I'm just saying that the game shouldn't operate within a simple sandbox. It should be able to branch outside of that and tell an intriguing comic book story. I think that is what I would pitch for an Iron Man game, very different from my Punisher game pitch. And finally, I've got a little bit of a curveball for you guys, but I saw this online actually. I was doing a little bit of research because I came up with Iron Man and the Punisher. To me, that was just intrinsic. That was no-brainers. I was trying to get some other ideas because you've already got Spider-Man. I mean, that's pretty much my dream games right there. And I began looking online at what other people had thought, and I saw an RTS Secret Wars game, or even an Avengers vs. X-Men RTS game. Now, if you don't know what an RTS is, real-time strategy, and essentially you control the game from a second-person perspective, be it an above sort of omniscient view of the battlefield, and you can control each character, but not from a perspective of a first person where you're looking through as the Punisher and you're aiming your gun and you're shooting people, but rather you can control where they go, when they go there, who to attack from, once again, an omniscient above view perspective. So a real-time strategy game allows you to control multiple characters. You can control a variety of squadrons and that sort of thing, and I think that a superhero video game RTS is long overdue. There might have been some in the past, and RTS games are among my favorite to play. I love World War II RTSs, and one with, for example, the Avengers versus the X-Men or Secret Wars or something like that, I think would be incredibly cool, and I cannot underestimate how amazing a game like that could be, where rather than just playing as one hero, you can control 10 or 20 of them or more in a massive battle of the Marvel Universe. I just think that would be absolutely cool. I know some people have pitched like an Injustice for Marvel games. I'm not really interested in that because fighting games isn't really my thing. I play Injustice because it has DC heroes in it. But for example, the only Mortal Kombat game that I've ever played is Mortal Kombat vs. the DC Universe. So I'm not exaggerating when I say I play these Injustice games simply because there's DC characters in them, and otherwise I'm not really all that into fighting games. But with that being said, an RTS game, I would so buy that. I think that would be amazing. It could be like Halo Wars. If you've ever played that, it would be comparable to that, and it should be on console and PC because I don't have a PC, so please make it on console too. And yeah, that's pretty much my pitch for 3 Marvel games that I would love to see. So, before you guys go, I've got 2 quick announcements for you guys. The first of which is that I am actually taking the initial steps to setting up a t-shirt and otherwise merchandise store. So, the first thing that I did is I paid a graphics designer to do vector work for my graphics to clean up the quality and everything like that and make sure it is the absolute best quality for printing. Now, I know I only have 45,000 subscribers. Generally, it's sort of a taboo to make t-shirts and stuff like that with less than 100,000 subscribers, and I don't know how many people are going to buy it. It could be like 5 people. I don't know, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. Some people have asked me about it, so I figured that it's sooner rather than later. It's always been a YouTube dream of mine, like I said, so I figured that I'd rather not wait and just see how it goes. So I just took the first steps, paid somebody to do some vector work, and to make sure that the printing is going to be the absolute highest quality, and I'm going to work on getting that store up by the end of September is my goal. So that is going to be the plan, and we'll see if that comes to fruition, and if not, maybe early October, I think at the very latest, in terms of getting that store up. My second announcement, as many of you know, September's Loot Crate theme is Speed, and it's going to feature items from Green Arrow, The Flash, Batman, and Iron Man. So if you're interested in that crate for less than $20, it can be yours. With all of those items from Batman, Iron Man, Green Arrow, The Flash, everything like that, you can check my link in the description below, and you can save 10% if you use my discount code SlickMoff, SLCMOF. Okay, guys, hope you all have enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for all Marvel and DC video game news, information, speculation, and more. My name is SlickMoff. Once again, we'll see you in the next one.